About a week ago on Christmas Day, or as we celebrated the Christmas Masses, I mentioned how beautiful the church looked and how glorious the music sounded. And here we are about a week later, and it still looks gorgeous, right? The music is still wonderful. And the reason is because we're still in Christmas. You know, in the Catholic Church, Christmas is not just a day. It's not just December 25th, but it's a season. It's a liturgical season that'll usually last about 2, sometimes 3 weeks. It's the shortest of all the liturgical seasons. It begins on Christmas Day, and that first Sunday after Christmas Day, today, we always celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family. The second Sunday, next Sunday in the United States anyway, we always celebrate the Feast of the Epiphany, which is our parish feast day. And this year, the Christmas season will wrap up basically with the Feast of the Epiphany. But let's focus on this great feast day that we celebrate today, this feast day that we should be able to relate to quite well. The Holy Family. You know, like Jesus and like everybody else that's ever lived, all of us are born, raised in a human family. Such was the case with Jesus, right? He was raised in a human family that lived in this world, not an eternal life, not in the universe out there somewhere, not in fantasy land, but Jesus was born and raised in the same, world that you and I have been raised in. Subject to, yes, the many joys, but also the many challenges, conflicts, difficulties, unexpected curveballs that this life brings. And like us, Jesus had to be trained in the ways of dealing with life. Jesus did not come forth from Mary's womb like a little robot that knew and did everything. It didn't work like that. He had to learn to walk like we did. He had to, eventually learn to talk and learn the language of his time. He had to be potty trained like we were. Same thing, had to learn to read, had to be taught to pray like we did, and had to be taught, had to be trained to discern, right, how to respond to the immense mystery that life brings as it unfolded. And guess what? Joseph and Mary were also doing that. They also were not robots. They didn't have the answers to everything. Listen, I kind of laugh sometimes because I get this often enough, especially at the high school level. Not so much from these young people that are here, but that's coming. Where sometimes I'm hearing confessions, and I'll get teenagers say to me, amongst the many things they say, they'll say, "My mother's nuts," or "My father's nuts," And I tell them, usually I take advantage of that moment and tell them, "No kidding." I said, "It's taken you this long to realize they're crazy?" I said, "If I had a kid like you, I'd be more than nuts too." And I'd say to them, I said, "Look, get with the program. You got to realize that your parents, okay, you don't get parenting is the hardest thing they'll ever do. And they don't get a degree in it, There's no manual. Every kid is different. They're making it up as they go along. Just like you're making it up as you kind of go along. But trust me, they know a lot more than you do." Hey, it was the same way for Joseph and Mary and Jesus. But Here's the key thing to focus on. Here's where we need to imitate them. They weren't making it up as they went along with All right, there we go. Thank you for that commercial pause. Yeah, they weren't making it up as they went along without guidance, without help from above. You know, Joseph and Mary and Jesus eventually, was trained to look at the mystery of life as it unfolded and to allow that mystery to be illuminated and guided by God. One of my favorite, passages in scriptures, it happens in the infancy narratives, happens twice. When the shepherds visit Mary, and then when Jesus is found in the temple at 12 after he's been disappeared for 3 days. That line that says, Mary kept all these things in her heart. What does that mean? It means that as the surprises of life, pleasant, unpleasant, unfolded, Mary, as I'm sure Joseph was as well, they were constantly discerning, what does all this mean? What is God trying to teach me through all this? How does God want me to respond to all of this? What are my next steps in the midst of all this? And that's what leads to holiness. They had a very unique plan as a family, They had a very unique mission, I should say, in the overall plan of salvation. Talk about a great gift and a tremendous responsibility. They had to teach God how to be a man. No pressure, right? No pressure. Well, we all have a unique mission in God's own plan of salvation. We all have unique fingerprints, right? As individuals. Guess what? We also have unique fingerprints as married couples. We also have unique fingerprints as families. There's never been a marriage exactly identical to yours. There's never been a family exactly identical to yours either, or to mine. God has a very creative and unique plan to carry out his mission in all of us as individuals and as a family. However, we can only discover that as we journey through the mystery of life, the mystery of our lives, our marriages, our families. We can only discover that by doing what Joseph and Mary and Jesus eventually learned to do, by keeping all these things as they unfold in our hearts and taking them to God and allowing God to teach us about them. Otherwise, we'll never really discover our uniqueness, and we'll fall into the trap and into, I may say, the spiritual cancer of trying to be like everybody else, of trying to keep up with the Joneses, of trying to get, nothing but likes on social media. All of that is a bunch of nonsense. All of that is so disrooted from reality. And it keeps us, it's a tremendous hindrance in helping us to discover our unique role as people, as families, as marriages, as individuals in God's plan of salvation here and now. May this Feast of the Holy Family, may this wonderful Christmas season help us to all the more be in touch with that. May it help us to journey through mystery without fear. May it help us to take everything to God and allow us to be guided, illuminated by God. And then, just like these beautiful decorations, just like the beautiful music, the way we live our lives will also add to the beauty of what we experience and what all experience at the moment. My dear friends, let us now stand.